Yeah, guys, we are getting started in 1 minute. Hi, guys. Good evening, everyone. Is my voice and video clear for all of you? Could you please confirm in the chat box? Yes. Perfect. Good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ashok IT. Today is our second session related to our DevOps with AWS Cloud. So in the last session, we discussed few points like what are the prerequisites to attend this course, and we discussed about course content. I mean to say course route map, what we are going to learn as part of this training, the syllabus we discussed, and we discussed about course info like the duration, the timings, the fees, the notes, the backup videos that you are going to get for this course. So this is what we learned in the last session. Today, let's jump into what is DevOps. Okay, so this is DevOps with AWS Cloud Training Program. This is Master Program Zero to Hero program. So as part of this today's session, we are going to understand what is DevOps, guys. So I hope most of you already know the definition for what is DevOps. DevOps is the combination of two terms. One is development plus operations. Development plus operations is called as DevOps. Are you guys getting my point? So DevOps, nothing but development plus operations. DevOps is a culture in the IT industry. DevOps is a culture in IT industry to simplify application delivery process, to simplify application delivery process to client with a high quality. Now, so in the company, software development team will be available. The development team will use one language to develop the application like Java, Python, .NET. There are several languages available. So developers will write that code for the application. Then as a operations team, we need to deliver that application to the client with a high quality. So here, development team will be working in the project and the IT operations team will be working in the project. So to establish the collaboration between the development team and operations team, this DevOps culture came into market. So DevOps is not any technology. DevOps is not any programming language. DevOps is a culture in the IT industry which is used to simplify application delivery process to client with a high quality. So what is the main aim of the DevOps? The main aim of DevOps, to establish collaboration between the main aim of the DevOps to establish collaboration between development team and operations team. Development team and operations team will be available in the project. So development team will be working on the coding part. Operations team will be working on the delivery part. So as two teams are working on the project, there should be some collaboration between those two teams. So to establish the collaboration between those two teams, companies are following this DevOps culture. DevOps nothing but development plus operations. This is a new culture in the IT industry, which is used to simplify application delivery process to the client with a high quality. So the main aim of the DevOps to establish collaboration between development team and operations team. So let us see in the company, what are the roles and responsibilities of development team? Then we will understand what are the roles and responsibilities of operations team. So development team, they are going to gather requirements. So development team will gather requirements from the functional team. That means what is the client expectation, what kind of business client is doing, what type of application we need to develop for the client. So they are going to involve in the requirements gathering. Then they will involve in requirements analysis. What kind of requirements client is providing for us, whether we can implement all the requirements expected by the client or not. So this development team is going to involve in the requirements gathering process. This development team is going to involve in the requirements gathering process, and the development team is going to involve in the requirements analysis process. Okay, good. So sorry guys, I was not able to share the screen till now. So now I am sharing my screen. Is it visible for everyone? Can you guys see my screen? I was typing something, but it was showing the PPT only. Is this clear now? So I was typing what we have discussed in the last session. What are the prerequisites for this course? What is the roadmap of our course? And what is the course information that we discussed in the last session? And today we are understanding what is DevOps. So what is the DevOps? DevOps nothing but development plus operations. So what is this DevOps? DevOps is a culture in the IT industry which is used to simplify application delivery process to the client with a high quality. So what is the main aim of the DevOps, guys? The main aim of the DevOps to establish collaboration between development team and operations team. So the main aim of the DevOps to establish collaboration between the development team and operations team. So let's understand what are the roles and responsibilities of developers in the project. Okay, what are the roles and responsibilities of developers in the project? Development team will involve in the requirements gathering. Development team will involve in the requirements analysis. They're going to understand the requirements. Okay, then they will involve in the designing part. What is the architecture of the project? So how many layers we are going to develop in the project? How many modules will be available? What database we are going to use? Everything they are going to design as part of this design phase in the application. Okay. Once the design part is completed, then they will go for development part. They are going to involve in the development, excuse me, which is also called as coding part. Once the coding part is completed, then developers will go for testing. Whether their code is working as expected or not, they will check that. Then after, they will go for code integration. So these are the roles and responsibilities of the developers, and they will involve even in the bug fixing also. If some functionality is not working, if some code is not working, then the developers are going to fix the bugs which are available in the application. Guys, could you please confirm? Is my screen and my voice, my video, is everything clear for everybody? Could you please confirm in the chat box now? So initially for first 5 to 10 minutes, I was not able to share the screen. Maybe I hope the problem is resolved now. Is everyone clear? Good. So what is DevOps? Could you please respond in the chat box? What is DevOps? DevOps nothing but development plus operations, guys. So development team will be available and operations team will be available in the project. The main aim of the DevOps to establish the collaboration between the development team and operations team. So, sir, what kind of collaboration will be available between development team and operations team? To understand that, first let's discuss what are the roles and responsibilities of development team in the project. Development team will involve in the requirements gathering. Development team will involve in the requirements analysis process. So what requirements client is giving, can we implement those requirements technically? Is it possible to implement those requirements or not? Then once analysis is completed, then they will go for designing part. Then they will go for development. Basically here coding will be available. Once the coding is completed, then they will go for testing part. Whether the code they have implemented is working as expected or not, they are going to test it. Once their testing is completed, the testing basically is called as unit testing. So each developer will test their functionality is working as expected or not. Once they feel that the code is working as expected, then they will go for code integration. Nothing but all the developers in a multiple team members will be available, right? Multiple developers will be available in a team. All the developers code should be integrated at one place. So developers are responsible for code integration. Once the code is integrated, if anything is not working, if some functionality is not working, then the developers are responsible for fixing the bugs available in the code. Bug fixing will be available. So these are the roles and responsibilities of developers in the project. Are you guys clear with this one? Could you please respond in the chat box? Are you clear with the roles and responsibilities of the developers in the project? Are you guys clear with the roles and responsibilities of developers in the project? Perfect. Now, let's understand what are the roles and responsibilities of operations team. Operations team roles and responsibilities. So here, as a DevOps engineer, we are calling as operations team engineer. So you will be called as operations team member in the company. So what are the roles and responsibilities of operations team in the project? Operations team is responsible to understand infrastructure requirement. Okay, so that means to run this application, developers has done some coding. To run that code, what kind of infrastructure is required? So understanding the infrastructure, nothing but understanding the machines that are required. So in the real time, we are going to call them as servers. How many servers are required for our application? What network is required for our application? What storage is required for our application? Okay. What backup mechanism is required for our application? What is the security that is required for our application? So in order to run the application in the real time, we need some infrastructure. Infrastructure, nothing but the environment which is required to run our application, the machines, the servers that are required to run our application, the network that is required for our application, storage required to run our application, the backup required to run our application, security that is required for our application. So as an operations engineer, as an operational team member, we need to understand this infrastructure. We need to understand what infrastructure that is required for the project. Once we got the clarity on the infrastructure required for the project, then we need to create that infrastructure provisioning. So provisioning, nothing but creating that infrastructure, guys. Infrastructure provisioning will be available, or we can say infrastructure provisioning concept will be available. Provisioning, nothing but creating the infrastructure. We are going to provision our infrastructure, or we are going to create our infrastructure. Okay. How we are going to create the infrastructure? In the real time, people are going to create the infrastructure by using Terraform. So people will not create the infrastructure manually in the real time. People will create the infrastructure by using Terraform. Terraform is used for infrastructure provisioning in any platform. As a DevOps engineer, we are responsible to understand the infrastructure that is required to execute our application, and we need to create that infrastructure. So how do we create that infrastructure? By using Terraform, we are going to create the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure is created, we are responsible for configuration management. For example, I have taken 20 machines for our application. in those 20 machines, we need to install some softwares. We need to copy some files from one machine to another machine. We need to do some OS patch updates in those machines. Okay. So such kind of configurations we have to perform as a DevOps engineer. So instead of doing such kind of configuration management manually, we are going to use a concept called Ansible. We are going to use a Terraform for infrastructure creation. Infrastructure creation in cloud platform. Infrastructure creation in cloud. So it can be any cloud. We are considering as the AWS cloud in this course. So how to create the infrastructure in the AWS cloud? So to create infrastructure in any cloud platform, we are going to use Terraform tool, Terraform software. Once infrastructure is created in the cloud by using Terraform, we need to manage configurations required for our machines. How do we manage the configurations? In order to manage the configurations, we are going to use a software called Ansible. Ansible is used for configuration management. Okay, so this is related to infrastructure management, guys. Understanding the infrastructure, create the infrastructure, and manage the infrastructure by using this Ansible. Okay, then this infrastructure that we are going to create basically with the Linux machines. So we need to work with Linux operating systems. Working with Linux machines, we can call as Linux servers. Okay, so whatever the machines that are required for our application, we are going to use Linux machines for our day-to-day activities in the project. So we need to work with the Linux machines. Are you guys getting my point? Understanding infrastructure requirement, creating the infrastructure in the cloud, then manage the infrastructure by using Ansible, then we should be able to work with the Linux machines. We should be able to work with the Linux machines in our project. Then after, we should be able to work with, as an operational engineer, we should be able to work with source code repository servers. We should be able to work with source code repository servers. So what is source code repository server? For example, GitHub, Bitbucket will be available. So that means all the developers code should be integrated at one place, right? So we should be able to set up the repositories in the GitHub, and we need to manage the permissions, rollbacks. So the developers should be able to connect with the GitHub repository, and the developers should be able to integrate all their code at one place. So we should be able to manage the source code repositories for our application. Okay. So once the source code repository is available, then we should be able to work with the containerization. Working with Docker for containerization. Docker is used to simplify our application execution process in any platform. Okay, so in every project nowadays, people are using Docker. As a DevOps engineer, we should be able to execute the application with the help of Docker containers. Then here we are going to manage containers using Kubernetes. Manage containers using Kubernetes. This Kubernetes is called as orchestration platform. Kubernetes is called as a orchestration platform. Docker is called as containerization. Okay, GitHub is called as source code repository server. So here, developers code will be integrated in the GitHub. As a DevOps engineer, we need to take the code from the GitHub and we need to containerize that application by using Docker. Once the Docker containers are created, we need to manage those Docker containers by using a tool called Kubernetes. Kubernetes is used for orchestration purpose. Now here, this containerization and orchestration, we are going to automate by using Jenkins. Automate project build and deployment using Jenkins CI/CD pipelines. We are responsible to create Jenkins CI/CD pipelines to automate project build and deployment process. And we are responsible for monitor pipelines. whether our pipelines are working as expected or not. So servers monitoring, application monitoring, servers monitoring, and applications monitoring will be available. Servers monitoring and application monitoring will be available. As a DevOps engineer, we are responsible for this monitoring activities also in the project. So developers will have these kind of roles and responsibilities. Operations team will have these kind of roles and responsibilities. So guys, here, anything is related to coding in the operations job? No. Operations team is responsible to understand infrastructure required for the project. When I say infrastructure, what kind of machines are required for our application execution, what kind of servers are required, which network we need to configure for our application, what storage is required, what backup is required for our application, what security mechanism is required for our application. We need to understand that. Once we understand that, we should be able to create the infrastructure in the cloud. Nowadays, people are not using on-premises infrastructure. People are going for cloud infrastructure. So there are several cloud platforms available in the market. So we are going to learn AWS cloud as part of this course. Okay. So you should have idea on the AWS cloud as well. In that cloud, we are going to create the machines. Network will create storage, backup, security. All this infrastructure we are going to set up in the AWS cloud. So that's why AWS knowledge is required. So how do we set up that infrastructure in the AWS cloud? Manually or automation? Manually, we don't set up the infrastructure. Infrastructure setup will be automated by using which software? By using Terraform. So we should know how to work with Terraform to create infrastructure in the cloud platform. So this Terraform we can use to create infrastructure in any cloud platform. So once infrastructure is created, then we need to manage some configurations in those machines. For example, installing Java, install Java software 10 machines at a time. So connecting to each and every machine, installing the Java, verify Java is installed or not. It is a difficult process. So we need to automate that configuration management required for our application. To automate that configuration management required for the application, we are going to use a software called Ansible. Terraform is used for infrastructure creation. Ansible is used for configuration management. Are you guys able to understand what is the difference between the Terraform and Ansible? Could you please respond in the chat box? Are you able to understand what is the difference between Terraform and Ansible, guys? Can you tell me what is the purpose of Terraform? What is the purpose of Terraform software? I'm expecting your answer. I want your answer, guys. What is the purpose of Terraform? It is used to create infrastructure. What is the meaning of infrastructure creation? Creating the required servers, creating the network, creating storage, security, backup, all the infrastructure that is required for the application. So where we will set up infrastructure required for the application? We will set up the infrastructure in the cloud platform. So there are several cloud platforms available in the market like AWS, Azure, GCP. By using Terraform, we can set up infrastructure in any cloud platform. So now can you tell me what is the Ansible? What is the role of Ansible? What is the role of Ansible, guys? I want your answers. Only 2 to 3 people are responding. What is the purpose of Ansible? Ansible is used for configuration management. Ansible is used for configuration management. What is the meaning of configuration management? Installing the softwares, uninstalling the softwares, copying the files from, copy file from one machine to another machine. Copy the file from one machine to another machine. Install the software in the 10 computers at a time. Uninstall the software in the 10 computers at a time. So such kind of configurations can be automated by using a tool called Ansible. Okay, then, so here The machines that we are going to create for our project, those are Windows machines or Linux machines, guys. So in the real time, we are going to work with Linux machines only. So we should have the knowledge on Linux operating system. Then next one, as a DevOps engineer, we should be able to work with the source code repository servers like GitHub and Bitbucket. So what is the purpose of this GitHub and Bitbucket? They are used for code integration. Developers will integrate the code at one place, that is called repository, source code repository. Now, we should be able to create the repository. We should be able to take the code from the repository. As an operations engineer, we should be able to create the repository. We should be able to manage the permissions for the repository. Which developer should have read permission in the repository? Which developer should have write permission for the repository? That kind of operations will be taken care by operations engineer. Then we should be able to work with the Docker for containerizing our application. Okay, Docker is a containerization. Simplify, it is used to simplify app execution process. Okay, so you can execute your application in any machine if you are using Docker for that. By using Docker, our application will be executed as a container. Docker is a containerization software. Sir, what is the meaning of that containerization? It is too early to understand what is containerization now. Containerization, that we are going to spend 1 week to 10 days of time to understand what is the Docker. In simple terminology, I will say that containerization nothing but it will package application code plus application dependencies for executing in any machine. Okay, containerization means our application code and what are the softwares that are required to run our application, those dependencies will be packaged as a container. So packaging our application code and application dependencies as one unit for executing in any machine is called as a containerization concept. Are you guys clear with my point? What is Docker? Docker is a containerization software. What is the meaning of containerization? Containerization means it is used to package our application code and dependencies of the application. Dependencies is nothing but the softwares that are required to run our application. We are going to package these things as one container for execute. Once the container is available, we need to manage the containers. What is the meaning of managing the containers? Create the containers, okay? Delete the containers, scale up the containers, or scale down the container. This kind of work is called as orchestration. So to manage the containers, we are going to use Kubernetes. Kubernetes is used for managing the Docker containers, guys. So we are responsible to manage our containers by using Kubernetes. Then next one, Jenkins. Jenkins we are going to use for CI/CD process in the project. CI/CD nothing but continuous integration and continuous deployment. By using this CI/CD, we are going to automate the project build and deployment process. So here, create the pipelines. We are responsible to create pipeline. We are responsible to create the pipeline. We are responsible to execute the pipeline, and we are responsible to monitor the pipeline. Okay. So pipelines, nothing but series of steps. Set of steps will be available to automate the project build and deployment process. As a DevOps engineer, we are responsible to create these pipelines. We are responsible to execute these pipelines. We are responsible to monitor these pipelines. Okay. Along with these things, once our application build and deployment is ready, once infrastructure is ready, we need to monitor the infrastructure monitoring, servers monitoring, application monitoring. So basically we can say infra monitoring and application monitoring will be available. If any issue occurs, we need to troubleshoot. Okay, we need to troubleshoot the problem and we need to fix the problem. So these are the roles and responsibilities of DevOps engineer in the company. So DevOps nothing but development plus operations. DevOps is a culture in the IT industry to simplify application delivery process to the client with the high quality. DevOps is not a separate technology, guys. We can say DevOps is a culture, or we can say DevOps is a process which is following in the industry to simplify application delivery process. What is the main aim of the DevOps culture in the industry? The main aim of the DevOps is to establish the collaboration between the development team and operations team. So in the project, development team is responsible to work on these items. Operations team is responsible to work on these items. As two teams working on the same goal, project delivery to the client with the quality. These two teams should have some collaboration. To establish that collaboration, these DevOps practices came into picture. Are you guys clear? What is the DevOps? Why we are going for DevOps? What are the roles of the development team? Development team roles in the project. Operations team roles in the project. Now tell me, coding is responsibility of development team or operations team? Who is responsible for coding in the project, guys? Developers are responsible for the coding. DevOps engineers are responsible for the coding. Dev team is responsible for the coding. So as a DevOps engineer, what is our responsibility? Infrastructure, understanding the infra requirement, creating the infrastructure, and managing the configurations, managing the Linux machines, working with the Linux machines, managing the source code repositories, creating the containers for the application, managing the containers by using Kubernetes, and automating the build and deployment of the project by using CI/CD pipelines, monitor our infrastructure, identify any problems occurring in the infrastructure, monitor the application, troubleshoot the problem, and fix the problem, make application delivery process smooth for the client. That is our responsibility as a DevOps engineer. So that is the reason in the yesterday session I told that coding knowledge, programming knowledge is not mandatory to become a DevOps engineer. If you already having some programming background, that is excellent. But to learn this DevOps with AWS, programming is not required. I hope you got the clarity, guys. What is DevOps? Why DevOps? What development team will do in the project? What operations team will do in the project? If you are clear with this one, please respond in the chat box. I'm not getting the responses in the chat box. If you send me a message, we are good, then I will proceed for the next concept, guys. Clear. Very good. Now, so what skill set should be there if we want to become a DevOps engineer? Skills required to become DevOps engineer. So you all are here to learn DevOps course, right? So what skills you need to learn to become DevOps engineer? So you understood what DevOps engineers will do in the project. You got my point. Okay. So what are the skills that are required to become DevOps engineer? So to become the DevOps engineer, first we need to understand software development lifecycle process. So first we need to understand what is software development lifecycle, SDLC. Okay, SDLC process we need to understand first. Then to become the DevOps engineer, the most important thing, you need to have very good knowledge on Linux operating system. You need to know what is the software development lifecycle, what is software project, what is the project architecture, software development lifecycle is required. We need to know what is this SDLC, and we need to understand application architecture. We need to understand what architecture will be available for the application, what is two-tier architecture, what is the three-tier architecture. We need to understand that application architecture. So what is the front end, what is back end, what is the database? So this information we need to know. So what is the front end in the application? what technologies will be used in the front-end development of the project, what is back-end of the application, what is database for the application. So you need to know about this application architecture. First, we need to learn about the software development lifecycle. In this software development lifecycle, we are going to learn what is a waterfall model and what is agile model, what is a scrum framework. We are going to learn this. Okay, so this skill is required. This is theoretically you need to understand what is the development lifecycle. Then you need to know what is a project in the company, what architecture people will follow to develop a project, what is the front end, what technologies will be used to develop the front end of the project, what is the back end, what technologies will be used to develop the back end of the application, what is a database, how many types of databases available in the market, what type of databases we are going to use in the application. We need to learn about this process. Okay, guys, getting my point. Then Linux OS. So basically, we need to understand how to work with the Linux operating system. What is Linux machine? How to set up the Linux machine? How to work with the Linux machines, that we need to understand. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys able to understand my point? How to work with Linux operating system. How to work with Linux operating system. And as a DevOps engineer, we need to know about some shell scripting also. Programming is not required, but scripting knowledge is required. What is this? Because in the company, whatever the servers that we are going to use for our project infrastructure, those servers will be Linux machines only. So we need to work with the Linux operating system. Okay. So here in the Linux machines, we need to automate some manual work. In order to automate that routine manual work, we are going to use some shell scripting here. So as a DevOps engineer, you should learn scripting also. Once the scripting is clear for you, then we are going to learn about cloud computing. Okay, guys. All right. So once we are good with the scripting concept, then we need to go for cloud computing. So here we are going to learn AWS cloud. In the AWS cloud, there are several services available, guys. Right. So as a DevOps engineer, as we discussed already, we are responsible to create the infrastructure in the cloud. So to create the infrastructure in the cloud, first we need to understand some cloud services. So in the AWS, there is a service available with a name called EC2. EC2 is used to create virtual machines in the cloud. I want 20 Linux machines for my project. I don't want to purchase 20 machines. I want to use 20 machines on rental basis. So in the AWS, there is a service called EC2 service, which will give you machines for rent. So in the AWS, you need to learn about EC2 service for machines. And there is a service called S3, which is used for unlimited storage. For every application, some storage is required. So that storage we are going to take by using S3 service in the AWS cloud. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, which is used to store our application data, application files. For unlimited storage, we are going to use S3 service in the AWS cloud. And in order to set up relational databases required for the project like Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, then we are going to use a service called RDS service in the AWS cloud. By using RDS, we are going to create relational database in the project. And we are going to use the IAM service for users and groups management. Okay, so which user can log in into our AWS cloud account, who can perform which operations in the AWS cloud, which user can create the machine, which user can delete the machine. So who can manage our infrastructure? Those permissions will be managed for the users in the AWS by using a service called IAM service. And we should know about VPC. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, which is used for networking in the AWS. So in order to secure our infrastructure in the AWS cloud, we are going to set up one isolated network in the AWS cloud. To set up that isolated network, we are going to use a service called VPC service. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud in the AWS cloud. Along with this VPC, we are going to learn some other services also available in the AWS, like EKS service is available, which is used to set up Kubernetes cluster in the AWS cloud. So in order to orchestrate our application, we need Kubernetes. So that Kubernetes cluster we are going to set up by using EKS service in the AWS cloud. So like this, there are 200 plus services available in the AWS cloud. Here I have given the names of 6 services only. One is EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, which is used to create virtual machines in the AWS cloud. The next one is S3 service. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, which is used to store unlimited data. Okay, for example, if you take Amazon Prime as an example, lot of movies available in the Prime, short films are available in the Prime, web series is available in the Amazon Prime. So that is data that they are maintaining in the cloud. That storage is S3 storage, cloud storage. The AWS S3 stands for cloud storage, unlimited. You can store any amount of data from any location at any point of time. So for S3 we are using for storage in the AWS. Then RDS. For every application, database is required. So once I explain the application architecture, you will understand what is the front end, what is back end, and what is database. Okay. So for every project, some database is required. So to set up the relational databases for our application in the cloud, we are going to use a service called RDS. RDS stands for relational database. Then guys, don't worry that, sir, you are saying something Greek and Latin, we are not understanding anything. So this is the skill that is required to become a DevOps engineer. So if you join this course, you are going to learn this skill set. Today, I am just showing you what we are going to learn from tomorrow. Sir, I don't know what is EC2. I'm not understanding what is unlimited storage. Sir, I don't know what is this IAM. We did not discuss about that. So today, just introduction. What you need to learn if you want to start your career as a DevOps engineer. So could you please read the title? So don't get scared by seeing all these points. I'm just telling you what you need to learn to become a DevOps engineer and how you are going to learn what I'm going to explain. What is our roadmap? What topics we are going to learn for the next 3 months of time that we are discussing. So don't get scared by looking at these topics that I am writing here. Anybody getting scared? अरे भाई बहुत सारा कंटेंट है, so मुझे नहीं आता. Anybody feeling like that? Come on, respond. Is anybody feeling like that? Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. So this is what we are going to learn in the future. 3 months. 3 months. Okay. 3 months we are going to spend to learn this content. Along with the projects we are going to learn. Okay. So the only prerequisite, 3 months of your time, 3 to 4 months of your time, one good laptop, and your dedication and your interest to become a DevOps engineer. That is sufficient, so that understanding this subject, becoming the DevOps engineer, I will take care of it. I will keep my 100% efforts to make you a very good DevOps engineer with AWS Cloud. Load balancing and auto scaling, those are part of EC2 service only. Those are subsets in the EC2. If you want, I can write here load balancer and auto scaling and EBS block storage. Okay. So here load balancing concept will be available. Here auto scaling will be available in the EC2. Block storage will be available for our EC2 machine. These three things are subset of EC2 service in the AWS cloud. So when I mention EC2, that means these things also part of that. Got it? Then next one, Route 53 service will be available. Route 53 service is used for domain mapping. Sir, what is a domain mapping? When you type the URL www.gmail.com, that gmail.com is a domain. When you type the domain in the browser, that Gmail project is opening in the browser. That means Gmail project is linked to that gmail.com domain. Facebook.com. Facebook.com is the domain name. It is linked to Facebook application. So end user will access the project by using domain name. How do we map our project to the domain name? By using a service called Route 53 service in the AWS cloud. So like this, there are 200 services available in the AWS. And there is another service available in the AWS which is called CloudWatch. That CloudWatch service is used for monitoring how our servers are running, what is the health of our infrastructure in the cloud. That can be monitored by using CloudWatch. If anything is going wrong, if something is wrong, if any machine is unhealthy, then we need to send some notifications. For that, we are going to use simple notification service in the AWS. Okay, like this, there are so many services are available, etc. 200 services available in the AWS. As a DevOps engineer, we are going to learn 10 to 15 services. Are you getting my point? So to become the DevOps engineer, what we need to learn? You need to know software project development process. What is waterfall model? What is agile model? What is the Scrum framework that you need to understand? Then you need to learn about application architecture. What is the front end in the project? What is the back end in the project? What is the database? What technology is used for the front end and its tech stack. Okay, back end and its tech stack. Database and types. What types of databases available in the market? Linux OS. Linux, basically you need to understand Linux commands. How to create the files in the Linux. How to create users in the Linux. How to manage permissions in the Linux. How to deal with the networking in the Linux. How to work with cron jobs in the Linux. Okay. How to work with the cron jobs in the Linux. How to change owners in the Linux. Okay, how to install the softwares in the Linux, the Linux commands that we are going to learn. Then scripting. What is the purpose of scripting? To automate routine work. So whatever the routine work that we are doing in the system can be automated by using that script. Then cloud knowledge is required. AWS cloud. There are some services available. What services? EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, which is used to create virtual machines in the AWS. Load balancing, auto scaling, elastic block store will be available as part of EC2. Then S3, unlimited storage. For every application, storage is required. For that, if you want to store unlimited data, then you can use this S3 buckets for that. RDS is available, which is a relational database, which is used to store, RDS is used to create relational database that is required for the application. For example, my project requires a Oracle database. You can create in the AWS. My project requires MySQL database. We can create in the AWS cloud. Okay. Then in my company project, there are 10 team members available for the AWS and DevOps. DevOps team size is 10 members. In this DevOps team, who should work on the database related operation, who should work on the security, who should work on the network, who should have which permission in the cloud, can be managed by using a service called IAM. Users, user permissions, user groups we are going to manage by using a service called IAM service available in the AWS. IAM stands for identity and access management. Okay, so tomorrow in the company, you will work with the AWS account given by the company as a IAM user. For every team member, one IAM account will be created in the AWS cloud. Then in the AWS cloud, we need to manage the network for our resources, isolated network. To manage the isolated network for the resources, we are going to use a service called VPC service. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. Then EKS, which is used to set up Kubernetes cluster that is required for our application. Okay, Kubernetes is used for orchestration. Good. Then Route 53. Route 53 is used for domain mapping. Your application is available. That application should be mapped to a beautiful domain name like ashokit.com, okay, facebook.com, irctc.com. So mapping application to the domain name can be done by using a service called Route 53. Then next one, CloudWatch service is available. What is the purpose of this CloudWatch? It is used for monitoring the resources in the AWS. Whatever the infrastructure that you set up in the AWS can be monitored by using this CloudWatch. Then next one, SNS is available. That is simple notification service. When we monitor our infrastructure, if something is going wrong, if something is unhealthy, then we can send a notification by using this SNS. So like this, you need to have some knowledge on the cloud services as a DevOps engineer. Then after this, cloud knowledge is available for us. Then we will start with the DevOps tools. You need to know some DevOps tools. The first tool that you need to learn is Terraform. Very, 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 very important to create infrastructure in cloud. So we are using AWS cloud, right? In the AWS cloud, I want to create one EC2. We don't create EC2 machine manually. EC2 machine we will create by using this Terraform. To create infrastructure in the cloud, we are going to use Terraform tool. Terraform software we are going to use to provision infrastructure in the cloud platform. That is the first tool that you need to know as a DevOps engineer. Because as a DevOps engineer, our first task is infrastructure creation only. So we should know the Terraform to create the infrastructure. Once infrastructure is created, we need to manage configuration. Like I have created 20 computers in my application for my application guys. In these 20 computers, I want to update the OS. I want to do some OS updates in these 20 machines. Connecting with each and every machine, update the OS, check the updates are happened or not is a time-taking process. So that's why we will automate configurations like installing the software, updating the software, uninstall the software, copy the files from one machine to 20 different machines at a time. That kind of automation can be done by using this Ansible. So Ansible is called as a configuration management software. Okay. Then once you learned about this Terraform and Ansible concepts, then we will go for a tool called Maven. This is a build tool. Once the infrastructure is ready, then we need to work on build and automation for our application. We are going to use Maven as a build tool, which is used to build our Java application. Then we need to work with the GitHub. GitHub is called as a repository server, code repository server. I can say source code repository server. We can also call it as version control software. Okay. As a DevOps engineer, you need to learn the Terraform, you need to learn the Ansible, learn the Maven, learn the GitHub. Terraform is used to create infrastructure in the cloud. Ansible is used for configuration management. Okay. Then Maven. Maven is used as a build tool for the Java applications. GitHub is called as version control software. So how the developers will integrate the code for every project, one version control software will be available. We are going to use GitHub as a version control software. Then Once we learn the GitHub, we need to know Tomcat. This Tomcat is a web server to run application. To run the web application, one server is required, which is called Tomcat. Then we need to learn about SonarQube code reviews tool. Whatever the code done by the developers, that code will be reviewed by the DevOps team with the help of a software called SonarQube. SonarQube is used for code review. So developers code is having the quality or not. Okay. So based on the code quality, we can decide whether we need to deploy that code or we should not deploy that. Then we need to learn a tool called Nexus. Nexus is called as Artifactory Server. So whatever the project that we have built by using Maven, those build artifacts, like the project will be packaged as a jar file or war file. That jar file or war file, we are going to store into Nexus tool. Nexus is called as a Artifactory Server. Then we need to learn about Docker. Docker, as I discussed already, it is used for containerization. Our application will be packaged, containerization. Okay, our application will be packaged along with its dependencies. For example, my project requires Java and it requires a database, it requires a Tomcat. This is Java software, Tomcat software, database software. Instead of we are installing in our machine to run the application, Docker will take care of that. Code plus dependencies will be packaged as a single unit for executing in any platform. So for that, we are going to use Docker as a containerization software. So if you have only code, developers will write the code, but only that code you can't run in the computer. To run that code, some softwares are required. If it is a Python application, Python software should be available, database should be available to run that project. If it is a .NET application, .NET software should be available, IIS server should be available, SQL server database, SQL server DB is required. So only code cannot be executed directly. For the code, some dependencies are required. Those dependencies are nothing but the softwares that are required to run our application. Here, instead of we are installing the softwares on our own, we can use the Docker to containerize our application. So if you give the code to the Docker, Docker will install the required softwares to run the application. That is called containerization. Nowadays, Docker is very famous in the market for the containers. Every application will be executed inside a container only in the real time. Now, how do we create the containers? How do we manage those containers? For that, we are going to use Kubernetes. How we will use that Kubernetes? Kubernetes we are going to use as an orchestration software. Nothing but manage the containers, create the containers, delete the containers, increase the count of the containers, decrease the count of the containers. Okay, so such kind of containers orchestration we are going to perform by using Kubernetes. Are you guys getting my point? Docker and Kubernetes. Very, 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 very important. Docker is used for containerization. Kubernetes is used for orchestration. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? What is the purpose of Docker and Kubernetes? I'm not getting the response. Can you please type in the chat box? What is the purpose of Docker? What is the purpose of Docker? To create the container. What is the purpose of Kubernetes? Orchestration. Orchestration means what, guys? Managing the containers. Create the container, delete the container, update the count of the containers, increase the containers, decrease the containers can be done by using Kubernetes. Kubernetes is an orchestration platform. Okay. Along with this, Docker and Kubernetes, we need to learn one tool called Jenkins, which is for CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment we are going to achieve by using this Jenkins. Jenkins is called as CI/CD software. So that means whatever the flow, take the code from the GitHub, build that code by using Maven, perform the code review by using Sonar, upload the artifact into Nexus, create the container, manage the containers. Everything can be automated by using one software called Jenkins. Jenkins is called as CI/CD software, which is used to automate project build and deployment. The main purpose of Jenkins to automate project build and deployment process. It is used to automate the project build and deployment process. Are you clear? Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes will take 1 month of time in our course. Those are the very important tools. Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes will take 1 month of time. Once we learn these things, then we need to know about a tool called Prometheus and Grafana. Prometheus and Grafana, these are for servers monitoring. That means how our machines are running, what is the health of the machine, what is the network speed of our machine, how much memory utilized. The servers can be monitored by using this Prometheus and Grafana softwares. Then we are going to use ELK or EFK. So this ELK or EFK for application log monitoring. When the application is executing, there is a chance of getting some problems in the application. Some code might not execute as expected in the production. When the code is not working, we need to understand where is the problem in the code. For that, we need to monitor logs of the application. So to monitor the logs of the application, we are going to use ELK stack. Here, ELK stack nothing but Elasticsearch, Logstash, Fluentd, Kibana. These softwares we are going to use to monitor logs of our application. Okay. Along with these things, we are going to use a tool called Jira. Jira is used for project management. So your task assignment every day, your Scrum Master or your team lead or manager will assign the task for you. So your day-to-day task will be added in the Jira board. So what is our project status? How many items are pending? How many items completed? Who is working on which task? Everything will be tracked by using a software called Jira. Jira is called as project management software. Okay. So these are the DevOps tools that you need to learn. If you want to become a DevOps engineer, you need to learn these DevOps tools. For the DevOps engineer, only these tools knowledge is not sufficient. Along with these tools, this cloud knowledge is required, scripting is required, Linux knowledge is required. So these are the skills you should learn to become DevOps engineer. As part of our training also, exactly we are focusing on the same skill set. We are going to learn the Linux, the roadmap. As I told you, our plan. What is our plan here? Same way we are going to execute our plan. First one, introduction, DevOps Vault, software development lifecycle. What is waterfall? What is agile? Scrum, sprint we are going to learn. Then we will learn about the Linux OS. Then we will learn with Linux with scripting we are going to learn. Then third one, we will learn about the AWS cloud services. Then fourth one, we are going to learn DevOps tools. Then we will work on projects setup. One project with Terraform, one project with Ansible, project with Docker and Kubernetes, project with Jenkins, project with the monitoring. So 5 projects we are going to set up here. Then interview guidance will be available. How to prepare our resume as a DevOps engineer? What are the roles and responsibilities we need to explain? What projects we need to keep in the resume? How to upload our resume in the job portals? How to attend the interview? How to work as a DevOps engineer? Day-to-day activities for the DevOps engineer. everything we are going to learn as part of our interview guidance. This is our roadmap for the course. So I hope you got the clarity what you need to learn to become a DevOps engineer and what are the roles and responsibilities of the DevOps engineer in the company. So all of you, could you please respond? What is the DevOps, guys? All of you, could you please respond? What is the DevOps? DevOps means development plus operations. Development team will be available. Operations team also will be available in the project. DevOps is a culture which is used to automate the project build and deployment process, the project delivery process. Okay. DevOps is a culture in the industry which is used to simplify the project build and deployment process. The main aim of the DevOps to establish the collaboration between development team and operations team. So we have seen what are the roles and responsibilities of the development team, what are the roles and responsibilities of the operations team, and what are the skills that we need to learn to become a DevOps engineer, and what is our course roadmap that we have discussed today. Is this clear for everyone? Is this clear for everyone? Yeah. So guys, today I'm going to give you one task for you people. Today's task is create AWS account. Create free tier account in the AWS. Create free tier account in AWS cloud. So we are going to work with AWS cloud. We need one Linux machine to learn the Linux operating system, right? For that, we need to create a virtual machine in the AWS cloud. For that, you need to have the free tier account in the AWS cloud. So to create free account in the AWS cloud, you no need to pay any money. The account itself is a free tier account in the AWS. They will ask your details like name, email, phone number. You need to give your credit card or debit card details also for the account creation in the AWS cloud. They will charge 2 rupees from your account, and once your account is created, they will send the 2 rupees back to your account. Okay, so you need to create free tier account in the AWS cloud, guys. So when I say free tier account, 1 year free subscription will be available for the people to learn the AWS services. Okay, so here you need to create the account in the AWS cloud. For that, I have given one video also in our YouTube channel. How do we create the account in the AWS cloud? So I'm going to share that video as well. So if you go to Ashok IT YouTube channel, then you can find out that video in which I have explained account creation process in the AWS cloud. Okay. So before coming to tomorrow's session, I want all of you to have the account in the AWS cloud. Okay. So let me share the video to understand the account creation process in the AWS cloud. Recently, I have uploaded that video in the YouTube. In that, I explained account creation process in the AWS within 2 minutes of time. Can you see the second row here? AWS account setup in 2 minutes. First, all of you watch this 2.5 minutes video. Then you create the account on your own in the AWS cloud. So by tomorrow, everybody should have the account in the AWS, which is free of cost. You need to provide your card information. They will deduct 2 rupees for you. They will deduct 2 rupees from your card, and they will send the 2 rupees back to your account once your card is verified. Once your card is verified, they will send 2 rupees back to your account. This is the reference video, guys. Okay. So I'm going to share this video, this notes in the WhatsApp group which we have given. I hope all of you joined in the WhatsApp group. I hope all of you joined in the WhatsApp group. I have given one WhatsApp group link yesterday as well as today also. If anybody is not part of the WhatsApp group, please join in that WhatsApp group. Okay. I'm going to share these notes and this video to create the AWS account in that WhatsApp group. If anyone is not part of that group, so please join immediately. Otherwise, you will miss updates. Are you getting my point? Are you able to join? All of you, are you able to join in the WhatsApp group? Perfect. I'm going to share these notes and this AWS account video in that group. So please create the account before coming to tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we are going to understand application architecture, guys. So what is software application? What is the architecture of the application? What is front-end, back-end database? What is software development lifecycle that we are going to learn in the tomorrow's session. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining for today. We'll meet again tomorrow. Anybody having any questions? So I'm open for the discussion now. Please raise your hand in the Zoom. The people who are watching from YouTube, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and please comment and about our session today. Okay. So if you want to attend the live session in the Zoom, you can find the Zoom details in our website. YouTube viewers, please like this and comment on this video. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.